And we are live. Welcome back to another Q&A with the Oak and Rock Fatherhood YouTube channel. I am Zachary Small, founder of thefamilyalpha.com, owner of fraternityofexcellence.com, and I'm joined by Anthony Migliorino. Anthony, what's up, brother?
What's going on, Zach? I'm Anthony from peacefulfathers.com, and tonight we are going to do a live Q&A, a lot of peaceful parenting questions and anything else that you guys want to throw at us.
It's always wild when we start these because we'll put the ask out. We get a few questions through DMs. I don't think this is a topic that's taboo, but I often wonder if people are afraid to just ask a question about parenting because they don't want to come across as, well, I'm a parent. I don't want to show like I don't know what I'm doing. There are no dumb questions. There is nothing that's off limits. If you don't know something, if you're trying to figure something out, even if it's as simple as how do you get your kid to start reading more books? How do you get your kid to brush their teeth? How do you make bedtime such a less of a disaster than what it is for many homes? You know, these things, they might sound petty, but these are real life things. And honestly, when I see these fathers and they finally break the shell and ask the question, they're like, oh my God, I never thought about that. Thank you so much. And then bam, peace enters the home. So for those listening and watching this, there's nothing that's off limits. There's no question that's too dumb or trivial. That's why we're doing this, to deal with the normal day-to-day and not only focus on the hyper rare exceptions to what's going on in normal life.
Yeah, 100%, Zach. There is no dumb questions. You know, this is how we get better. This is how we become better fathers. And a lot of times there's things you don't know or that you don't see. And once you start to open up the conversation, you start to see these things clearly. And this is how we become better.
So you want to dive into the questions?
Let's do it.
All right, brother, let's go. Again, before we kick this off, if you've not already liked and subscribed, do that now or throughout this show, because that's how you're going to stay up to date with the information we are bringing to the table. Like this first question. So, Anthony, what are some things I can do to immediately start peaceful parenting?
So the main idea behind peaceful parenting is obviously to parent peacefully. But I would say that one of the biggest things you can do to immediately see progress, even in your kids, but is to start with you. So we oftentimes want to control our kids' behavior. We don't want them to have temper tantrums, and everything is focused on the kid. With myself and my family, when I started to go down this journey, everything started with me. The mood, the tone, the behavior of myself, this is what conveyed the message that I was really committed and dedicated to doing work. And, you know, my family saw it, especially my kids, right? They see that dad's changed. So I think that's a really good place to start, right? There's many other things you can do to improve the relationship, but I think immediately it starts with you. You have to take a good look at yourself. You have to be honest about who you are as a man. And you have to think about how your kids see you. I think that's important, right? If they always see you stressed out or angry or you're mean, whatever it may be, you need to make sure that you're displaying a man of better character to them.
Hey, I just dropped some of the best wisdom I've ever dropped, and I had the mic on mute. I've never run a podcast before, so it must be on me. So I'm going to bring it back.
Yeah, wait.
I'm the new guy.
I thought I lost connection.
Hey, so I'm the new guy here.
Right, we'll get this.
Shout out to LSH TV for letting me know, because my partner over here didn't say a word to me that I was muted. So now that I'm unmuted, look, the biggest thing we got to focus on here is that fathers, we have to respond to situations. We don't need to react to them. So when a kid says, hey, I don't want to brush my teeth or I don't want to go to bed, instead of the immediate reaction of do what I say because I said so, slow it down and respond to them and replace brushing teeth or bedtime with anything. Reacting, that's an emotional, immediate, there's very little thought there. But a response, that's a calculated, intentional choice to break down what's going on in that situation and explain, hey, here's where I stand and here's why I'm telling you I would like you to do this thing. You tell me what is the issue you're having with this? And then you could teach your child, hey, here's why we do the things we do. So instead of being a domineering person relying on your position of authority, I'm the dad, do what I said because I said so, you can actually connect with your child. Hey, us together, we're going to get through this. Let me know what you don't like about it. Maybe we can fix that. That's a response. So if I were to talk about immediately applying peaceful parenting, stop reacting and stop going with that first instinct.
Yeah, 100%.
All right. Looking at the chat, we've got Tavis Savoy. I spent many hours with this man today. He hooked me up in many ways. I'm not going to dive too deep into how, but this dude, he did a lot of work today and definitely left me in a more secure position in my life. So Tavis says, what's your stance on talking back? So Anthony, we're at two different stages. So your kids are a little bit older. How are you dealing with, they're entering adulthood or they're adults, with them coming back on something you're saying, and then I'll jump on it from the younger children's stance.
Well, yeah, I mean, my kids are older now, and I encourage it. So I don't worry if my kids talk back. I don't let it affect me personally. I do want them to talk back, right? I want them to have opinions. I want them to have ideas. I don't want them to silence who they are just for my benefit. But as far as talking back, in a, I guess in a disrespectful way or some way that's going to be hurtful or just just inappropriate. I don't have that, right? That doesn't happen in my house. And it's not because I don't allow it. It's because over the years, it's the language that we've used in our home, right? I don't talk back to my kids. We focused on respecting each other and listening and letting people say their words, right? Letting people express what they need, what their preferences are. So, it's like anything, you have to get in the reps. And the more that you do it, you wire your child's brain to be that way. So if all you're showing them is frustration and anger, and you're talking back to them, or you're not letting them get a say, then that's how they become conditioned. So they're going to be defiant, or they're going to talk back, and you're going to see it as aggressive, but really it's just that they're not heard. So that's what goes on in my house.
No, it's a great answer, dude, because that's kind of how I see it heading in that direction with us. With questions like this, so my son's 12, my daughter's 9. We're past the point of, let's say, 3 to 5, where they're just solely operating off emotion and I want this, I need that. And their words might come across as crass or very direct or possibly even rude, but they're just trying to get a point across, consistently. And I'm using that term intentionally here. Consistently, if they cross that line to where I felt it was a very disrespectful, I would just ask them, why are you saying it like that? Why are you talking to me like that? Are you okay? Is something, and I would immediately address, like, why is this coming out of you in such an abrupt manner? I don't talk to my kids like that at all. I don't give them, that sounds weird, but I don't give my kids attitude. I talk to my kids. I just speak to them. So I know it sounds odd, but it's true. And so when they're talking back, it's more of there's a disconnect there. So if you say, hey, I need you to clean your room, I don't want to. Well, that technically is talking back, but how do you talk back to them talking back? How do you fix that? How do you alleviate it? Instead of letting the stress go higher and I'm going to turn it up a notch. No, go clean your room. I don't want. And now guess what? It's a full-blown fight. But what if you didn't, again, react to that talk back? I don't want to. Oh, come here, bud. Just come sit down for a second. What's up? I looked in your room and there's just a lot of clutter. I'm thinking we could maybe better organize that or get it, together so you don't trip if you have to go and the lights are off at night and go to the bathroom, whatever. And you could totally spin it and be like, look, there's no reason to get upset about this. Go ahead. You can wait. You do it in a few minutes, if you've got something going on right now. I just want you to take care of your room because being organized keeps you from losing your toys. It keeps, me from stepping on anything while I'm in there, make sure nothing gets lost, or if your clothes got to get clean, we can get them clean. There's so many areas you can take it back to that you would never reach if you reacted to their talk back. So when they would talk back to me, I never reacted because we talk about frame, about being the rock and the oak of the family. Well, dude, if you're going to react and they talk back to you and you get upset, well, you're not a rock. You're not a tree with deep roots. You're a leaf getting blown in the wind. Your kid gets mad. Now you're going off the rails. So very similar to Anthony. I think I'm headed in that direction because I don't really get that anymore. And the few times I do, I'll just ask, hey, what's up? And they'll explain there is something else going on. And then we talk about that thing.
Yeah. And this is a lifelong practice, right? This is what we're doing, raising kids. So I would say that you don't want to see the talk back as a negative. You don't want to see it as your child's disrespecting you or somehow it's about you, right? What they're going through is about you. Because I will tell you, it's very tough to be in a relationship with somebody who doesn't care about what's going on with you. So the moment that I would say you realize that you're the father and your role and your duty as a man, as a father, is to guide your kids, to teach them lessons, right? Zac said, there's things that he does with his kids now where it takes time. It takes a really long time. And once you take a step back, you can be more calm. You can be more present in the moment instead of just reacting. Those are the stepping stones. That's what's going to continually build, right? Step by step, the personality, the work ethic, how determined your kid is. These are the things we want to focus on. So if you could plant those seeds in your back of your mind, that it's not just about the talking back, it's really about what we're doing here as a father, right? We're building kids of high caliber, high character, and kids who are going to be able to do things for themselves.
Yeah, honestly, if you take it a step further, when you're constantly evaluating or critiquing yourself, I'm not good enough, I've got this going on, my boss is being a jerk, and then you go home and you and your spouse might not be on great terms, you're taking shots at each other, it only makes sense that your kid's going to start taking shots. And everybody's kind of picking at one another and pressing each other's buttons. And again, if you don't like that environment, if you want an environment that's conducive to peace, connection, relationships, and getting the best from each other, somebody has to put the pitchfork down. And that might be you learning, like, you know what? I'm not going to be so hard on myself. I'm going to go ahead. I'm just going to bring some peace to my home. I'm going to start being a man who's not reacting to everybody else. So you don't react to your wife. You talk to her. You engage with her. You don't react against your kids. There's no scoreboard in a family. So you shouldn't be like, well, you did this, so I'm going to do that to you, and then you're going to do this. Look, you got to wipe that slate clean. Somebody has to say, look, we're starting over. This isn't working for us. We're going to be better than this. We're going to work. We're going to be a better family. We're not going to keep going after each other. The world is hard enough. It doesn't need to enter our home like that.
Yes. Travis has another question, which is awesome.
We had some great talks today, man.
I'm sure you did. So he says, what's a good way to peacefully parent with a young child? For example, my son is 3 and gets frustrated easily. And like most 3-year-olds, that's what they do. Kids have feelings. They get angry. You want to tackle this one, Zac? Or you want me to?
Yeah, no, I'll jump on this one first. I keep putting you in the spot. So with this one, one of the things that I constantly advise guys on younger kids is that you've got to get into their world. What they're frustrated about or the things that they're going through or having feelings on might not seem like a big deal to you, but they're 3 and it's a big deal to them. So you need to go into their world and look at it through their eyes. And if they're frustrated with something, is that something you can work on together? Is that something you could take a different approach to? We have a whole video dedicated to brushing teeth and going to bed because it's such a common thing. So that's one of those areas, especially younger, they just don't want to do it. I don't want to go and put mints in my mouth and scrub these bones just to go in there to go to bed. I don't want to go to bed in the first place. Never mind the brushing the teeth before then. So that bath time, cleaning up toys, if you make it a fun time with dad, if you make it, hey, this is something we do for this reason because it gets us that thing we want to get, and you kind of take their eyes off of brushing the teeth and view it more as here's a step to get me closer to laying in bed with dad and we read a book together. Or, there's many different approaches you can take. But in their world, you have to understand that their frustration shouldn't be just dismissed. Oh, it's just a little thing. Don't worry about it. They need to worry about it because that's their world. That's all they have. So try to look at it through their eyes is some of the best advice I could give on that.
That's great advice, brother. It's so easily to forget that their world is so big, right? It's a small child and everything's big to them. Whether it might seem small to us, we definitely have to recognize that. I think it's important aspect of becoming a peaceful parent. So one thing, Tavis, I would say with your son, he's 3, and right now he's very impressionable. So I would take a look at the environment in the home, make sure that your demeanor and your attitude is reflecting what you want to see back in your son. A lot of times kids will get frustrated or they'll lose patience quickly because we lose patience with them quickly, right? It's your kids are mirrors and they're going to show you back what you're displaying to them. And also, I definitely got to give a shout out to the fraternity of excellence. We're actually reading a parenting book as a group of fathers. It's called No Drama Discipline, and I just want to touch on one of the big topics that we've been discussing, and something really important is that we are actually wiring our child's brain right now by every interaction that we have with them, especially when they're young. Their brains are impressionable, they're developing, they're learning. So in times when we do get frustrated or they get frustrated, I would definitely say to take that step back, to get calm, to take a deep breath, whatever you have to do to be able to be present in that moment and understand that your son needs you to guide him. And not only that he needs you, but everything that you're going to be feeding to him, whether it's language, your body language, the tone of how you speak, it's all going to be making connection in his brain. And those connections are going to induce stress or they're going to bring him to being calm. So it's important, right? This is how we build emotional regulation and mental fortitude within our kids. And it's something we don't talk about enough because we just want our kids to listen. We just want them to do what we say, and it gets overlooked. So I would definitely go that route, Tavis.
All right. I have to keep looking at my mic to make sure I'm not muted. We've got a great question from Benedetto Gambino. What's up, Anthony? I'm having an issue with my 15-year-old daughter. She just seems to know everything and kind of pushes me and my wife back. The attitude is unbelievable. I try to talk to her, but her response is always get out, leave me alone. How do I get her to realize we are here to help, not intrude? My daughter's 9. Yours are older, so this is a great one tossed your way.
Yes, no, that's a good question, and it's common, believe it or not, Benedetto, my man Benny. It's not a uncommon problem. So you have to decipher the code. That this is how I would tackle this, right? If she's telling you to get out, leave me alone, it hurts as a father, right? You don't want to hear those words from your daughter. It's painful, and what happens is we try to talk to them. So now we're coming from a place of desperation, right? We're saying there must be something wrong because my daughter's telling me to get out, and we take it personal. I would definitely tell you and recommend that you take yourself out of the equation, right? It has nothing to do about you. We need to decipher the code. There's probably something else going on in her life that she's having trouble with, something that's bringing her pain, or there's something that she's not happy with. So just like a friend or somebody you care about, an adult, go about it that way, right? You show concern. You make sure that you're open. You make sure that you listen. Listening is probably one of the greatest tools you can do as a father, because it breaks down a lot of barriers and it allows your daughter to be comfortable. When you're always talking, even if it's in a calm manner, even if it's with respect, it still sometimes will feel to them that you're prodding, right? You're trying to figure out a little bit too much, or you might just be obsessive and annoying to them. So it's tough to talk to people. It's tough. Most men that I coach, it's tough for them to talk. So don't expect your 15-year-old daughter to just open up easily. And like anything, brother, you have to get the reps in. You have to continually be there, be present. When she has a hard time or tough time, just don't take it personal and try to listen more. Active listening works well also.
Something I've noticed as well in issues or situations like this is we live in a world of quick announcements. Your social media, you're announcing something. People are very superficial with their engagements. and they've almost forgotten how to look at body language or how to look at deeper levels of discussions. And when it comes to a 15-year-old, and I'm not there yet. So admittedly, I'm dealing, again, my daughter's 9. But I realized that, and this kind of goes back to entering a child's world. If she's talking about something like, oh, these girls said this about me, and you're like, oh, what are you worried about that for? Or, oh, I didn't make the volleyball team, or these little things that you dismiss. These are trivial things. These are trivial things. Those trivial things might be great things or big things in her world. So she might be giving breadcrumbs as to what the real issue is. And maybe she's lashing out, but oftentimes people don't even know how to hide their true intentions. And she might be telling you without saying the exact words as to what's wrong. So if you're listening back to what Anthony was saying, you might be able to pick up a few things you might have missed, because in your head, you're like, I just want to say the right thing. I just want her to open up and connect. So you're thinking so much about you getting into and fitting that puzzle piece into her life that you're not realizing she's saying, hey, look over there, because that's where I need you to fit in. So I think, again, to what Anthony was saying, fully support that. I almost slipped on that one. Fully endorse what he said. But honestly, I think too that if you start listening more, you might find a few things that you hadn't seen prior to, that will kind of lead you to the answer as to what the real issue is. Because I mean, in a peaceful home, rarely is the kid just randomly going to lash out. Something caused that, and if you listen and you start looking, I think you'll find it.
Yeah. You definitely will find it. Listening, again, is key. I would also just add one thing, that it's okay if she says get out or leave me alone, right? There's times I feel like that as a person, as a man, where I don't want to be around anybody. So don't forget that, but I would absolutely say just keep trying to make connection. All right, we have Jeffrey Higgins.
Yeah, Big Jeff. I'm going to jump on this one. I'm trying to get like a back and forth here.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll just throw it to you. So how do you lead your kids into doing things that are good for them, but they may not enjoy? For example, my daughter loves to read, but she avoids math because she doesn't like it. You're not going to like my answer. I don't really make them do the thing. So my son hates art. I think art is an important part of every man's life. You should have an artistic side to you, be that creation, even working with your hands and building something outside. That's art to me. My son, literally, he would put a crayon on a paper, go from one corner to one corner and turn it in. That's his art drawing, because they said you had to write something that here, it's a line. I did something. I didn't get mad at him for that. I didn't say, oh, there's something wrong with you. I was like, dude, he just doesn't like it. So when it comes to things like math, you can explain to her, hey, math is a part of life. With finances, you need to know how to handle your money. Being able to do math helps you there. If you want these types of jobs, these are very math-focused jobs. But don't ever let her measure her worth based on that math. Don't ever let it come across, my dad loves me less because I don't do my math homework or because I suck at math. She doesn't like it. And, there is a way as they grow to show the use of things that you don't like. Sometimes you have to do stuff you don't want to do. That's a great argument. But I honestly don't push my kids that hard into the realms that they just don't enjoy doing. And look, in school, we were trying to do long division. Dude, I have no idea what's going on. I hate math. How am I going to get mad at my kid for not wanting to do it? So, dude, we sat there and I looked it up and I straight up gave him the answers. And then we went on YouTube and we watched how we got to that answer. And I was like, cool, man. Like, here you go. And instead of it being a frustrating thing, like, do your math, I was like, dude, come here. It's not that big of a deal. I don't know anything about this stuff. I'm 34 years old. I don't use it. So why am I going to get mad at my 12-year-old for not enjoying it? So there's things like that. Now, to flip the script, though, my daughter loves art. She hates to read. And I think reading is an incredibly important part of growing. So what I've done is both of my kids have an infinite fund for books. My daughter, my son reads Harry Potter, this new Divergent series. He reads any book in front of him quick. My daughter, it's like Dog Man. It's much more comic book style things. I tried the Harry Potter. She didn't like it. I tried these other things. She didn't like it. I just kept trying things until I found something that clicked. She likes the comic book series, and she likes this. It's like a princess tale. It's not quite a comic book, but it's very like lighthearted reading. That's good enough for me, man. She's doing something. She has a book. Her imagination's going. So with your daughter and whatever it is, be it math or whatever, find a way to make it fun. Keep trying different approaches to it. Maybe having a big whiteboard and playing on that is something you can do. There's a lot of things online. There's just a lot of ways you can make things that suck a little bit less. I hate math, so I'm in her corner.
Yeah. No, that's the goal, right? To make things that suck a little bit, have them suck a little less. And this is when I read this question, I definitely, from my perspective, and what I went through, I used to worry about this too. And I used to go from the perspective that my kids have to do things they don't like, right? That's how they're going to get better, or that's how they're going to become stronger. We have to sometimes do things that we don't want to do. And something that I've learned throughout the years is that whatever my kids love to do, I'm going to support them 100% in that, right? I'm going to try to grow it. I'm going to try to just compliment. I'm going to get excited about what they're doing, what they're creating, whatever it may be. And the secondary stuff falls away, right? You start to forget about it. Not that it's not important, but what I've seen in my kids is because they have a passion, because they want to succeed and they want to get better. Now that they're older, when there are things that are difficult, they will accept that challenge, right? They will go after things because they understand now that it does make them better. I think it's tough with a young child or even a teenager sometimes, right? They don't understand these concepts. You can't tell your daughter, you have to do this. It's, you're going to be a better person for it. You're going to be able to make a lot of money or be able, get a good job, whatever it may be. They don't really comprehend that. I would say focus more on what she does well, push her to be driven in those areas. And I think that you'll see more of a mindset shift in her and herself and her own confidence.
To go on a little bit of a tangent here, I
No.
spent a long time because I was a poor performing student. I spent a long time thinking I was dumb and not worthy, and I was just not going to bloom. And it was because I was measuring myself to something I wasn't. I wasn't designed to sit at a desk for 8 hours. I wasn't designed to do homework for hours on end. I didn't like school. I should have gone to a vocational school. Like that. My brain is just a more hands-on, get me out of the classroom type guy. And now what I do for a living, literally nothing to do with school or anything. But I ended up getting my master's degree just to prove a point. But the fact is, don't ever, and again, I just want to reiterate, don't let your children think your love is tied to their academic performance or some sort of thing you want them to do. If I was judging my son because I want him to do art, he'd be like, my dad doesn't love me. No, dude, you do you. I love you for you, and you're unique to me. And your daughter's unique to you. So it goes really well and really easy for you. It might not for her. There's a lot of dads out there, very athletic. Their kids aren't. Their kids want to go and build rockets. And I've told my kids, my son plays baseball and football now. I'm like, dude, if you wanted to be on the chess team and build rockets, I would have you in competitive chess. I'd call Andrew Tate. I'd call the Tate brothers. I'd have them tutoring, and we'd be building rockets and calling up like Tesla. I'm not Tesla, Elon Musk. I would support whatever they did. So to your point, Anthony, I think you hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
Whatever they want to do, I'm 100% behind. It's not about me. It's about the kid. So just make sure that they don't ever think, oh, I failed a math test. Dad's mad.
Yeah. And now if they hate taking baths, that's a whole different subject, right? We have to get the stink off. So we definitely give you some pointers on that if that becomes a problem.
Super soaker, just squirt gun fights, man. Just get them with soap.
All right. We have the next question is from Michael Buongiorno. It's a lot of Italian people in the audience today.
You're rolling deep today, Anthony. Migliorino.
So he asks, can you elaborate how important it is to have like-minded people around your family to raise a peaceful family? And that's a great question. It's a great question because it's something that I strive for. It's something that I've been looking for this to happen in my life for a long time, because it's not the norm, right? It's not something normal. That there's, especially I would say fathers, there's not a lot of dads having these discussions. So it's hard to find other men, right? Could you imagine if you met somebody on the flag football team and you're like, hey dude, you hit your kid? It's not a conversation that we have often. But I think it's very important. And I would say what happens and how the transition looks is you continually raise the standards of who you are. Then then the bar gets raised. And as you go through this process, you are going to attract like-minded people. And not all the time, it's not 100%, but I do believe that the more work you do on yourself, the more work that you look to bring peace to your family, it's going to reflect out into the world, right? You're going to be that beacon, that lighthouse. And this is how you're going to attract other peaceful families into your life. Um, and you know, there's so much to this, because when you do have family members who aren't supportive, it's tough also, right? When you have people telling you that you are, there's something wrong with you, or you're not thinking clearly, or, this isn't what normal people do. It's difficult to have, immediate family in your life who aren't supporting your mission, especially if it's something you feel very deeply about. So, tough question.
It is a tough question. I'm glad you went first. It gave you some time to think on this. I'll put it like this, similar to what Anthony said. When I left the military, one of the reasons I started doing what I do now is because I didn't have that crew anymore. The mission went on without me. And I had to find people who were like-minded, and it took me a while, but I ended up finding some dudes who were squared away. And now I can't imagine not having them in my day-to-day, and it's interesting because it shows your children that this is normal and it's not just your family. So when you find those friends and you go to their house and they're a peaceful home, my kids, they know Anthony, they know his daughter because we had ordered some cookies through her. And I'm like, oh, Anthony's daughter started the business, and she's building some things. So we're going to support that. And we get some cookies. And my kid's like, oh, you can have a business with cookies? I'm like, you can have any business you want, dude. But that discussion was one of the most genuine, like amazing discussions on entrepreneurship. And it started because we ended up ordering some cookies from Bliss Bites. Shout out to them. So when you look at this and you look at how it played out, I was like, man, if we weren't friends, if we hadn't had that discussion, I would not have had that discussion with my kids. And a mutual friend of ours, Phil Foster, my kids, I showed them the shaker bottles. I'm like, hey, that's my trainer. He's the guy that I work out with. Another motivated dude who's looking to raise his standard. My kids see adult men training and busting their butts. They see your wives training and busting your butts. So my kids know their parents aren't weird. Their parents have motivated people, but also when they grow up, they have to continue to bust their butts to go to the next height, to improve, to grow, and to have a good time doing so. Both the Miglioretos and the Fosters, my kids are like, that's awesome. These people are doing great things. They're having a good time. So when people come over or when we have conversations or when I talk about my friends, we're not sitting and bitching about politics or crying about sports or sitting there talking about these trivial things that we do nothing with. I'm talking like, hey, look at all the great things we're doing. How much fun have you had this week? Let's talk about these amazing things we're going to go do next week. My kids see that. That empowers me, but that shows them somebody besides their own father that kind of confirms, hey, maybe my dad's not crazy. Like maybe this works because there are other dads doing the same thing. So I think having those type of people in your life, it's reaffirming to those in your home that the peaceful way is the right way. And as you said, it makes you feel a little less alone and it's a little more normal.
Well said, Zach. And that's a big maybe. The kid said, maybe my dad isn't that crazy. That's a big maybe.
I was like, I missed what the maybe was about.
I know. I had to put it out there.
I'm glad. Pancash. How do you help your kids improve their focus? That's an awesome question. You want to go, Anthony? I'll jump on this one.
Go ahead.
So one of the things I do is when we work together, I have the kids really focus on the long-term goal. So, all right, we're going to go and we're going to clean the yard, for example. Or actually, here's a great example. We have these random plants that are like blowing up on my driveway and half of them are dying, or the bottom half is dying. I was like, hey, we've got to go. We've got to cut the base and we're going to pull these leaves out and we're going to go throw them into the woods. And it was like after about 4 plants of 20, the kids are like, man, I'm tired. My hands hurt. I was like, I know, me too. So I got in there with them. And it was all of us. I was showing them like, look, if you get real low and I'll do one, then you do one, then he'll do one. And each plant, we went together. It may not sound like that's helping them focus, but on each one, I would specifically say, hey, grab it low, pull it out, and then cut right near the bottom. But you really, focus on where you're going. My hands are tired. I'm tired. I'm hot. No, I know. But we got to finish this. So let's go. And we go through and they grab, they'd focus. So it's not just, hey, sit down and do your schoolwork. If you can do other things that get them to push through that initial resistance, like any other muscle, you train them to overcome that wanting to quit immediately. So it could be reading. You know, you open the book, 2 pages later, you put the book down. Oh, hey, bud, let's finish a chapter. And I'll sit with you. And if they're young enough, you do a page and I'll do a page. And we'll go back and forth. And this goes back to entering your child's world. If you want them to focus, let me ask you this. Are you focused? Are you setting a good example? Or are you sitting there scrolling on your phone and then watching TV and then talking to somebody and then scrolling on your laptop? Well, you're not very focused, so why should your kid be? Or you tell them, hey, go sit and go do this thing, and you walk away. Well, dude, you're not focused enough to sit with them. So again, I think this is something that they learn by observing. And again, it should be a teamwork. So if you want them to focus on their homework, sit down with them. Spend those 20 minutes with them. Be like, hey, let's go back and forth on these problems, or let's talk about the issue you're having, and then see if that helps develop that skill.
Well said. I would add, it's all relative to the age of the child also. We can't forget that. You know, kids at different ages have different capacities to focus.
That's a really good point.
That's important. But it doesn't mean that they can't focus. But to your point, Zach, it means that we just have to guide them more to focusing, right? To creating those habits where they're able to focus on something. Because it is something that we learn, right? It's something that we have to strengthen the muscle or strengthen our brain to be able to stay focused on something long enough. Especially, I think the main importance of focusing is when we focus on long-term goals, right? It's a great lesson from instant gratification to long-term results. And, you know, when you start to focus on, say, things like nutrition, what a great way to focus in on the habit and have your kids understand that, you know, if they really take time to understand food and eating and nutrition, when they get older, they're not going to be overweight. They're not going to have health problems, right? The benefits are going to pay off. And you can have those conversations at any age. It doesn't mean that they're going to work right away. Because like I said, each kid, they learn at different levels. And every kid is different also. So there's a lot of different variables. But those are always lessons that you should start implementing in your home.
And that's a good reminder right now for the advice that we're giving. Some things will need to be adjusted according to the age of your child. You know, I might have said something just now like, I'll read a page, you read a page. Well, if your kid's 16 years old, that might not be the right way to go about that. Maybe what would be better is to find a book they're interested in, or you think would fit the two of you. Be like, hey, let's both of us read this. Let's go sit together and we don't have to talk. But here, you read this, I'll read this. Let's go through it. These are going to be cool stories, or something like that. You know, I'm at the point now where I will sit and Kodo or my son will read, and then I'll read, and we'll be there for an hour and not say a word to each other. And that was us hanging out. And then he'll go do his thing and I'll go do my thing. And it's cool in those little moments where I'm no longer reading to him, but we're still spending that time together. Then, like, you know, in our last video, we were talking about working yourself out of a job. He's becoming his own man who's reading because he wants to. You know, we're spending that time. But with my daughter, we're still at the point where it's kind of back and forth and having fun with that book. So we're going to shift to a few questions that we had received privately. But if you have some and you want to drop in the comments, we'll address that live and make that priority. So one of the questions that we had, how can I get my kids to do things they don't want to do? Brushing their teeth, going to bed, sitting down and eating their dinner. We sort of touched on this one, I think, with kind of making it fun, getting to their level. But I would say, to add to something we've already said, remove the pressure that comes with that action. Like it's almost like a buildup. You know that teeth brush is coming. They know the teeth brushing is coming. Everybody knows that nobody wants to do it. And it's just like build up, and then it erupts. You can stop that before it happens. At dinner time, right when you finish it, be like, oh, hey, man, we've got some awesome ice cream that you're going to be having, but we got to make sure that tonight we're going to brush our teeth really well, right? Oh, yeah. We don't want any cavities. Oh, perfect. You don't want the sugar to stay there and eat away at your teeth. You want strong teeth. You're going to grow up like big and strong. Just totally get them hyped up before you're even done with dinner. Dude, you might do this at breakfast. Tonight, I can't wait for us to brush our teeth, right? So you go through the day, and guess what? By setting it up and just immediately addressing it, you're sort of planted a seed, and you just got to water it. And then when the thing happens, they're pumped, or they're less resistant. They're like, all right, I get it. Like, I got to brush my teeth. I said I would. We had the ice cream. It was good. Dad, you didn't lie about that. So I'm going to follow up on my end. And then you just keep meeting them. But, dude, I would rather my kid go to bed without brushing their teeth one night than for me and them to be screaming at each other. It's just not worth it.
No, definitely not. For me, this was this was the easy question, right? I'm a lot stronger, bigger, and I have a much deeper voice than my kids. So they do what I say. That's it. End of story.
Your son's catching up. I think he passed you, man. I saw him the other day. He's drinking his protein shake. You can't keep falling back on that one.
No, but no, yeah, it's it's important. There's things that happen every day in our home that we neglect to find reasonable solutions to solve these problems, and we keep repeating the same things for generation and generation. Right? I guarantee you, 100 years ago, fathers were fighting with their kids to eat dinner. This is nothing new, but that's why we're here. Now we're going to give you guys as much practical advice as we can, and something like eating dinner. These are questions I've had with so many men, and a lot of men force their kids to eat. They have them sit at the table till every drop of food is finished, and like anything, we need to consider what our child is going through, or what they might be feeling, or if they're hungry or not, right? We're the father, but do we know how hungry they are? Do we know how much food they can eat? So I think it's important to understand that dynamic, that it's not just always about what we want them to do, right? A lot of times we want them to do what's right for them. And eating dinner is an important one, because we want to create a real healthy relationship with our kid with food. We don't want them to think that food is bad, or every time they sit at the dinner table that it's going to be conflict, there's going to be a fight, or I'm going to be stuck here in this chair by myself after everybody else is eating dinner. And that's something that I had to realize in my home, that there is nothing more important to me right now than my family dinners. Having my three kids and my wife sit down, and everybody cooks. We all help set the table. Sometimes we help do the dishes, but it's those moments that we get a breather, we break for the craziness of the day, and you have to be able to enjoy that as a father, as a parent, right? That's something that you should take great pride in trying to commit to make dinner time a really time to connect and be at peace with your family.
Katarina Margarita left a great comment talking about fathers having these discussions and letting the kids be the kids. And I think that's an important point you just hit on. The pressure that's on this, we're flipping the entire script on fatherhood here. All the things that the clean plate club, we're getting rid of it. Because I said so, we're getting rid of it. I'm bigger than you, getting rid of it. The belt, getting rid of it. We're getting rid of so many things that were ingrained in us as being the right way. Yeah, it's just off the table. It's not even an option anymore. So what's left? What happens when you strip all those things away? Well, my kid's not going to eat. Your kid's going to eat. Your kid's not going to starve themselves. They won't listen to me. Why would they have to have fear to listen to you? If we strip the fear away, why are you afraid of them? Now they're not going to listen because they're not afraid. Maybe there's a better way to inspire your kids. So understand that, yeah, this is going to be a little foreign. Some of the things you're going to hear are going to be a little weird because it's just not the norm. But we should not allow mediocrity to be the norm. You have to be better. And that's what we're looking to do here. So when it comes to, like, I grew up in the clean plate club. I had to override the system that said you're full because I wouldn't leave the table if I didn't. I remember one time I had like freezer burned pancakes or French toast sticks. They tasted horrible, man. So bad. But I didn't know how to say that because I didn't want to get in trouble, but I didn't eat them. So I sat there from breakfast till lunch. I didn't leave the table until lunchtime, and I finished my lunch and I could leave. What did that teach me? Nothing. I learned nothing. So we need to make sure that there is a point to what we're doing with our kids. And when you hear it out loud, hey, don't make your child eat more than they feel like they should eat. Oh, that makes total sense. Then why are you making them clean their plate? There's a cognitive dissonance going on that it's good to step back and to really ask yourself, why are we doing the thing we're doing? If your kids are watching a movie or a TV show and it ends at 9:05, but their bedtime's at 9 o'clock and they're 5 minutes to the end of the film or show. Are you going to send them to bed to prove the point that you're your adherence to the rules do not bend because you're not a weak man? Do you think that shows them how strong you are? Or do you think that shows them that the bedtime is a higher priority than them? When you step back and look at it, things look a little different. So a lot of the things we're addressing here, you got to step back and look at it from the outside in. And that's going to really help with shifting your perspective on all these things. So that's just, I wanted to really hit that and make that clear. And shout out to Katarina. I appreciate the comments. That's awesome. And that's why we're doing what we do.
Yes, sir.
All right. We got another one from Mr. Gambino. I'm going to toss over to Mr. Migliorino.
All right. How do you get them to talk about something that she would naturally gravitate towards her mom and not her father? I want her to come to me with anything, but of course, there are mom things and dad things, but just to be involved. That's, I don't know if we should let this guy ask any more questions. They're getting more difficult. But it is another great question, Mr. Gambino. And I think it is, there are things that naturally your daughter's going to talk to your wife about, their mother about. But it doesn't mean that you can't be connected, right? It doesn't mean that there's things that you guys connect with and that you guys can talk deeply about. I have 2 daughters. There are things that they share with my wife, and I don't get jealous about it, right? I love to see it. I love to see them create those bonds. And the same thing with my wife. When she sees me and my daughters interact or talk, she knows that, these are things that I'm good at. These are things that we have conversations about. And she can choose to be a part of it, but it doesn't make her feel any less. And I think that's a strong message to get to clarify in your family, is that we don't always have to be a part of everything, right? There's things that we can share with each other that are just between my girls and their dad, or my girls and their mom. So my advice would be to don't let it get you down, right? Focus on the positive, focus on the things that you see that are good, and don't feel like you're missing out. Rather build what you can connect with your daughters.
Yeah, you said that really well. I mean, I don't have much to add to that, except that's a legit feeling, though. Yeah. I get where he's coming from. Because, dude, we all want to be a part of everything. Like, I want my kids to talk about anything. They're going to mom. Why aren't you coming to me? Yeah. And I get it. Look, but similar to what you were saying, I don't let it be a thing. I don't let it become a thing. It's like, look, it is wonderful seeing, my daughter, my wife do their thing. Like, I love it. And there are times they talk about stuff, and she's 9 and it's already happening. Like, they'll have conversations that I'm not a part of. I'm like, okay, it's cool. I'm here about anything. I'm here for anything. I make sure they know that. But sometimes I'm not the right one. Sometimes they want a specific input. And if they want mine, they'll come to me, and they know they can. But oftentimes, and this is just the way of nature, my son comes to me for certain things that aren't appropriate for the lady folk. My daughter goes to my wife for things that aren't appropriate for the men. It's just the wiring and the programming, because I've never been a daughter. So there's certain things that perspectives I don't have that my wife has. She's been a daughter, and same thing with my son. My wife has never been a young man. I hope not, but I have. So she'll come to me for certain things because she just can't answer that. So it's one of those things where it's a good thing, but you're not wrong in the outlook that you have in asking this question. It's a great freaking question, but that's just a part of life, man. And again, it's not a bad thing. It's just a thing. It's just the way it is.
Yeah. And definitely, again, don't make it about, they're going to talk to my wife, don't hold resentment against your wife, right? If you do feel that way, that they're not coming to you and they're always going to your wife, I think that's just evidence that you might need to do more work, right? You might need to honestly evaluate yourself and say, hey, maybe I need to be more involved in different ways. But nothing to beat yourself up about, right? It's forward progress.
All right, we had a question. This is a good one. It's an easy one, but it's a good one. What does peaceful parenting say to do when my son hits his sister? But let's go with siblings. Just any kid, one of your kids hits your other kid. What do you do?
What do you do?
You answered the other one first. I'll go first on this one.
Go ahead.
For me, it's easy. it's like, hey, what are you doing? we don't hit each other. Like, what are you doing? And they're like, oh, okay. Normally they're just wrestling around, and then one of them goes a little too far. That's it. And if we're talking little kids walking over and just whacking other ones, talk to them. Hey, how do you think that made them feel? Why would you do that? Oh, they took your toy? Is there another ways you could have got that toy back? Or he's bullying you? Good job. There's a lot of approaches you can take, and I'm kind of making light of it. But honestly, just talk to your kid. Hey, you don't like the way that feels. You don't want somebody to walk up and hit you. How do you think that made them feel? They probably feel that same way you would have felt. So what are we going to do about that? And to take it a step further, here's why we're not hitting. There's a lot of other ways we can handle this. A lot of ways you can get your point across.
Yeah, it's insane what you hear or what you see. So many parents think that they're going to teach their children to not hit each other by hitting them. And it's complete hypocrisy. I will say, again, it goes back to age and development. A lot of times little kids do not know their own strength. They don't know if they bite their sister, they don't know how bad that really hurts, right? They're not fully aware. They just know that they're either roughhousing or maybe their sister did something they didn't like. And it's how they act out aggression, right? They don't know how to control anger. But there's a book called The Boy Crisis, Dr. Warren Farrell. And he emphasizes how important it is to play fight with your kids, right? How they can learn limits to hurting people, not hurting people, and play fighting with their father. Obviously, mothers too, but it's a real important element to teach your kids those boundaries, right? To be active with your kids, to play fight with them, to roughhouse. It teaches them control of their body, and then when they, let's say they do kick you in the nuts, right? You could be like, whoa, we don't. That's off limits. We don't do that. That really hurts me. They start to get an understanding. And this is what a lot of times this pisses me off is people say you can't reason with kids or young children, very young children, which to a degree is true, but you can start to teach them how to reason, right? You don't have to resort to violence, or you don't have to resort to punishment. You can start, like Zac said, have those conversations. I wish all the problems of the world could be solved with a conversation, but unfortunately, too many people are wounded from childhood.
Hey, so you definitely just stole my thunder, man. I was going to jump on the Warren Farrell thing all day. So basically, for those who don't understand the full concept, when you see puppies fight and they bite each other, then one yelps, that's how that other puppy learned that's too hard of a bite. So, but if these kids, they never wrestle or play, they never know what punch is too hard of a punch, what kick is too hard of a kick. So when your kids are playing around, like my kids wrestle all the time, and it's just a thing they do. They've learned where that limit is. And it very rarely do they go beyond it because now they know, like, hey, this punch is okay. That punch is way too hard. It's going to leave a bruise. It's going to hurt her too much. But if they never got to do that, you see a lot of these kids, they just erupt because they've never played. So when they do finally try to play or fit in with other kids, but they've never learned how to do it properly, they hurt somebody. Because they're like, I didn't realize I wasn't supposed to wind up and hit you in the face. I thought we were wrestling. No, dude. This isn't like backyard brawls with like Kimbo Slice. This is just us hanging out in gym class. So letting your kids get exposure to that, become desensitized a little to the conflict is a good thing. But they shouldn't be like destroying each other. And that's where having some guidance or some facilitation of learning how to do that comes into play. And again, having dad around to wrestle, that's when you learn, hey, you don't kick there. Hey, you don't punch this hard. You don't bite that hard. You don't bite at all, honestly, but definitely not that hard to leave a mark.
Well, we got a Kimbo Slice reference. I think we're going to have him on the podcast soon, aren't we?
I think he's dead. Yeah. R.I.P.
All right. R.I.P. Yes. No, but to add to that point about the roughhouse and what you said was excellent with the puppies, that also transfers into giving your kid those boundaries, right? Their personal space, not let people invading them or invading that personal space. And it builds character, right? It builds confidence in your kids. It teaches them to be assertive. Like if somebody's pushing that boundary, because they've learned the lesson with you, play fighting, they could say, hey, don't touch me like that, or don't do that to me. And that can even go further into jokes or making fun of somebody, or if people are saying things that you don't want them to say about you, to be able to speak up and say, hey, I don't like that, don't say those things to me. So there's lessons in everything.
It's incredible how the lessons learned transcend just that moment. Like learning how to wrestle and do all that branches out to all those other things you just said. So, Jay Say, I'm going to call you that. Thoughts on a daily schedule for 4th and 6th graders? Really, really relevant because my kids are in 4th and 6th grade. I'll answer this one first. How detailed things they know they should be doing after school and before school are consistently being forgotten, even with reminders. Dude, I forget things all the time. So one of the first things I want to say is don't ever treat or hold your kids to a higher standard than yourself. You have bad days sometimes. Your kids are going to have bad days sometimes. You forget things sometimes. Your kids are going to forget things sometimes. If they're just blowing it off, they've not understood the priority it is to you. And then I would flip the script back to you. Have you let them know why you want them doing that thing, how it impacts the family, and how it'll help them be better off than they were if they weren't to do it? So my son is in 6th grade. My daughter's in 4th grade. We start our day around roughly 6:15. I'll go up, I'll get the coffee started and I go knock on their doors. And then at 6:30 to 7 on Mondays and Wednesdays, my daughter leads us in yoga. And on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I lead them on push-ups and stretching. And that's our morning. That's how we start it. After that, they'll get dressed. They'll jump in the shower if they want to. They'll walk out. They'll grab breakfast. And then we'll drive them to school. When they come back from school, they both know my son has football practice pretty much all day, every week. So he's got to jump on his homework real quick. My daughter, she doesn't get homework at her school. So she'll come in and she'll start helping my wife around the house with whatever is going on that day. And if nothing's going on, then she has to go outside. She's got to flip her watermelons over to make sure one side doesn't get too jacked up. And she comes in and she plays and has a great time. That's pretty much our day to day. So the detail there, you can obviously tell, is minimal. I don't say from this time to this time, do this time to this time, do this time to this time. No, come home, Coda, do your homework. My daughter, I'm like, hey, just have some fun. If there's anything going on, help out. And that's it. So it's a very open schedule. Now, if you're talking things like set the table, do the trash, I have to remind my kids of that all the time. But dude, half the time I'm in here working, I've got to remind myself, I got to go do something, So I don't take an issue with having to remind them, and a lot of times they do catch themselves with the consistency, but I explain it to them. So, hey, while you're setting this up, that allows mom to focus on the food, and that allows my son and I to go and take care of the stuff around the yard or go take care of whatever projects around the house we're working on. So I explain why we do what we do. And I'm not saying this is you, but I do see with a lot of parents, they don't tell their kids why because they don't feel like they need to answer to their kids. I don't need to tell you why I do what I do. Well, dude, if you don't tell them, they're never going to learn themselves. And the goal is to raise an adult that does the things you're doing. So you've got to teach them, why do you do what you do the way you do it? And so that's the approach I take.
It's a great approach.
It's fun, man. We're having a great time.
It sounds like fun. Absolutely. I would say that I would add that he said things they know they should be doing. I think it's more of things they don't want to do. And with leadership, being a father, I think this is where we have to, again, take a step back, and we have to not say what they're not doing, but how are we not showing them how to do it? How are we not motivating them? It's real easy to pick a child apart, right? To tell them all the bad things or what they're not doing to our liking, what we need them to do. And, a lot of times it becomes finger pointing and you're saying, you don't do this, you don't do that, you don't listen. I would totally reframe the conversations. Start by telling them, I'm whatever it may be. If it was taking out the garbage, say, listen, I'm getting really frustrated that the garbage isn't taken out. Can anybody help me? Start having those conversations, and your child's lives won't seem like everything's being demanded. And the ultimate goal is you want to create cooperation. You want to have everybody working together where there's no threats or there's no punishment, right? But where your kids can actually feel good and present with helping out and belonging to the family. So take a step back and reevaluate and try to figure out what is a better path than what you've been doing, because it seems like it hasn't been working.
To get to show sort of the results of that type of interactions with each other, you have kids who then want to help you. They'll go out of their way. Hey, Dad, can I grab that out of your hands? Hey, Dad, can I take the trash out? Hey, can I help set this up? They see that by contributing. And Anthony, dude, you said something once that blew my mind, and it was just so proud, like for you. It was your kids are talking like, they're so happy to be there. They felt like they should be paying rent or something like that. And I was like, dude, because they see how much you take care of them and put out for them and how hard you work for the family and the lifestyle you have, that they want to contribute back and earn their spot in that, because to show appreciation. And I see that, like little glimpses of that in my kids. Like just earlier today, I was bringing the trash out. Oh, I'll grab that. And he just took it and went. I was like, thanks, man. Like, it was such a stupid thing, bringing the trash out, but that highlights so much more. And to Jace, or Jace, I'm not even sure what to say there. If you are consistent with that and you open it up and like I said, put that pitchfork down and say, hey guys, we just got to go back over our routine. I want to make sure we're all, doing the best we can do for each other. You'll see a lot of great results, because the kids do want to help. Kids want to help. Kids want to be a part of the team. They want to contribute. They just sort of need to be shown where they fit into the whole scheme and why doing certain things are beneficial to the overall group.
Yeah. There is nothing like being a part of something you believe in. And I truly believe that, even for a child, you want your kids to be proud to help their dad, help the mom. And it's a tough thing to learn. It's a tough thing to navigate, but it doesn't mean we don't stop trying, right? If things aren't working, you make that change. Do we have time for more questions?
We'll do a last call. So we'll do a last call to the chat. We've got a few in the DMs, but we'll save that to the next one. We probably have like 7 more questions that were DM'd. We can hit those after. If anybody in the chat has anything, drop it now. This is the last call. Anthony, while we start to wrap this one up and sort of cruise it down, Oak and Rock Fatherhood, we've got several videos lined up that are coming out on different aspects to peaceful parenting. But one thing I wanted to ask you is, when you came across peaceful parenting and you started implementing it with your children, would you say that your son or your daughter responded differently to it? Would you say that it was an age thing that you saw the biggest difference between them and their peers? Or was it more your son responded faster compared to other sons who were being hit, or daughter compared to daughters who were being spanked? How did you see the biggest difference between kids who were yours in a peaceful environment compared to their peers?
Ooh.
That was a question I had, because as we're going through this, I'm wondering, I'm trying to look at myself as well while I ask you. People are like, well, we did the benefits, we did that whole video, but I'm wondering, like, even when I look at the kids, you can just see it. Like, there is a difference between kids who are in that environment and who aren't. And it's in the eyes, man. Like, you could just see it in those kids' eyes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you take in consideration, if a kid comes from a home that is being physically hit, spanked, if all they see is violence, that's how we solve problems, is violence, then definitely you're going to see it in their eyes, right? Their brain has been rewired. There's pain that they hold on to. So I would say with my kids, and what I've noticed different from other children, even when they were younger, they definitely display a more willingness to cooperate, more willingness to just be at peace with themselves. Is my connection okay? Just blipped.
You're getting choppy.
No, yeah, I guess it's definitely something I have to think further on. But I would say that it's going to be a difficult time for a child to function properly, to have confidence, to have good self-esteem, if all they're seeing is a violent household, or a household that's even filled with neglect or shame. And even if a kid is threatened, right? If their whole life they're threatened to do things because the parents say so, those kids are going to walk the earth different. They definitely are, without a doubt. And just to cite something real quick, there's an author called Gabor Mate. He speaks about how he visited prisons. He was a psychologist, and he visited prisons and he talked to men, the most violent offenders in the world, in these prisons. I think it was in Toronto, and all these men, their whole childhood was extremely violent. They were either sexually or physically abused as children, and it's scary to think about, right? It's scary to think about. In society, we normalize this so easily. There's so many parents that are still hitting, still abusing their kids physically, mentally, and nobody's speaking out against it. So I think, what you were saying. I think if kids were treated better, you would see a lot more adults who behave better, right? There wouldn't be all this craziness going on in the world and all the evil that you see. Just my perspective.
And it's a great one, and one I completely agree with, man. It's easy to say, like, oh, we're trying to change the world. Well, dude, you change a family, you can change a home, you do change the world. And I don't care what anybody says, that's truth. And I see it. One of the reasons though, I kind of wanted to pick your brain, I didn't mean to do it live. I was actually just going to talk to you after, but here we are, is I see the kids that my son are with, and I don't know if it's because he's the older of my children, so I'm seeing it at that age group, or if it's because it's boys and they're tougher. But I see the way I interact with him, and you can see it in the other kids' eyes. It's foreign to them that I'm not going to yell and scream when he makes a mistake. I came up like, hey, bud, you did this. Try that. And you could see it because I heard them talk. Oh, you're going to get in trouble. He didn't get in trouble. It was a mistake. I make mistakes. Like, we're good. And they were just like, whoa. And again, I don't really see that with my daughter or her friends. They're kind of all just doing their thing. But it was interesting to see in his eyes. I could see in their eyes, like they don't have that. And I think they want that. Oh, and yeah. I hope with doing what we're doing here, we can give them that. And, this is growing, dude. I mean, it's expanding. The message is growing. The ripple effect is spreading, which is cool. But I guess if I had to leave a closing note in this one, you give your children that gift of being the kid who has and not the one who has not, who has that relationship with his dad, who has that peace in his home, not the one who does not have that and wishes. And is the kid that I'm talking about right now who's wishing he had that connection with his father. Give them that gift. The sooner, the better. And there's no reason to not start today.
Yes, sir. That's the plan, brother.
I'm all pumped up, man. I can't even go to bed after these. All right. So, Anthony, people want to work with you. I mean, this is a solid Q&A. There's no more questions. We will address the other ones, or if you have one, you want to drop in the comments on the next Q&A. We'll address them live. If we get a bunch and they align with some videos we're dropping this coming week, we'll address them in those. But if not, definitely the next live session, which will be next Wednesday, we will definitely answer your questions. Anthony, any closing words for the good people?
I don't know if I could top that one, brother. That was good. I think we're gonna end it on that. What you said was perfect.
All right. I want to thank everyone for tuning in. Anthony and I, we're doing this. We're having these discussions, but we're living this lifestyle. We would love nothing more than for you to join us. So start bringing that to your home. Start bringing that peace, that connection. It only works if you apply the information. So we had a discussion. You might have learned a few things, but if you don't apply it in your home, nothing changes. So focus on applying a more peaceful approach. And again, take yourself out of the equation. Just look at it and respond to your children. Don't react to them. This has been another live Q&A from Oak and Rock Fatherhood with Anthony Miglierino and Zach Small. You guys have a great night.